All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Welcome to the AMASA Forum Youth Edition. So today, really, we're just tackling the state of youth within the media industry. We've got a very interesting group of young people from the different spheres of our media industry. Before we we sort of unpack the state of youth in the media industry, I just want to start off by sort of obviously introducing myself. I am Pat Mahlangu, founder and CEO of Lerato Agency, as well as Pat on Brands. I've been with AMASA for the past 3 years now, and it's been a great journey, and I've grown within the ranks of the organization through great mentorship by some very influential people within the structure. And without wasting any time, really, I'd like us to kick off with Ally Fathana, the man from Fresh AF. I wish I could say it in full, but the children might be also watching. Ali, just give us a brief sort of introduction in terms of who you are, where you come from, how did you get where you are today? I don't think we can hear you, Ali. Maybe whilst you're trying to fix your audio, can we maybe move over to Deliwe? Deli, just briefly tell us who you are, how you got where you are today, and
no, absolutely. So my name is Deliwe. I'm 28 years old. I'm a mom and I'm a wife, and I got into this industry like about 6 years ago. And when I got into the industry, actually, I came in through an internship at MediaMark. I started off at media owner side, and then I moved on to agency side. My first agency job was at RMS Media, and now I'm at Mediology. I am a strategic planner at Mediology. Actually, coming into the industry, you'll hear that my story is very similar to Lebo's story. But coming into the industry, I came in through, I think I knew a lot more about the industry through AMASA. I actually am a product of AMASA. I did what is now called the GPALP. At the time, it was just ALP. Actually, the GP in the GPALP was one of my lectures, actually, at the time.
Wow.
Yeah, I know. So just before, he passed. But it was very interesting to see how excited he was. I remember him specifically being so excited to talk to the youth and hear what we have to say. And I was just like, but we're just young people. I'm an intern. Like, nobody cares about us. But he did. There's people that actually do care about, the young people in the industry. So I'm glad we're doing this, actually. So let me stop talking, people. I go on and on and on. But that's how I got into the industry. And now I'm a strategic planner, and I'm quite involved with the AMASA, and I hope I can get more involved, actually. That's in my to-do list for 2021.
Fantastic. Lebza?
Cool. Thank you, Pat. Thanks for having us. Yeah, it's crazy. Like Deli mentioned, our journeys have been so similar. Crazy enough, I'm also 28. I am now somebody's fiance, so on my way to also being married, which is great. Funny enough, exactly the same. I also started in the industry about 6-7 years ago as an intern. Straight out of varsity, we needed to work so that you could get your degree. So I had to do some practical work. Ended up at OMD, which is where I did my practicals. They decided to keep me, and which is funny enough how my media journey started as an intern. Made my way through the ranks straight to being a junior media strategist, which was a great opportunity. Funny enough, to what Deli has mentioned, it's been also key to people that I've met on the way, such as Gordon, funny enough, who gave me my first or second opportunity, funny enough. But yes, from there on in, took that opportunity, went into a little bit of client side through F&B, and right now I am at Tiger Brands as a media manager. So that's where I'm coming from, and that is where I am today.
Interesting story. I mean, another interesting thing about you too is that you're also wearing a matching jacket. So
I know, right?
8-year-olds things, married. Really, I. You
It's
guys,
time already to influence the industry.
I see. Over to you, Ali. Or Ali just sort of dropped off. There's something wrong with his audio. But yeah, man, interesting story, you know. But also, I just want to mention that it makes a lot of sense that actually when you part of an organization like AMASA from an early age, it somehow sort of impacts your growth and how far you reach within the industry. You know, without taking away from what we'll be discussing. I see Ali's back.
Hello.
Fathana.
Yes.
Yeah.
Well,
Ali,
I've had
Ali,
difficulties
we will
connecting.
send you back to Limpopo where you come from if you're not going to be there.
Anytime, bro. I'm okay.
Yeah, man. What's your story? Tell us briefly. We know your journey is quite different from the labels and Deliwe's. You an entrepreneur. You're a media owner. You now fresh AF. So
Okay, cool. Just a brief background of who I am. So my name is Fathana. Like you said, I'm from Limpopo, but Joburg. So I started my journey as a graphic designer into the whole industry. So I came in as a young person, started their own graphic design agency. Then later on, we funded what is known now as keepani.com, which is a publication for the youth. And, you know, like we grew bigger and bigger to the point where, you know, like we felt that, you know, the industry is not catering for us when it comes to the media side and media budget. So we've converted the publishing side into a more agency approach. So now we are known as Fresh AF, which is a company that has two wings to it. So there is a publishing side of things where we own publications such as Kipani, Gosi.co.za, and SA Creatives. So the agency side of things, that's where we do a whole lot of digital marketing, but specializing in the youth culture as a whole. So we're youth marketing specialists.
fantastic. So great that you mentioned that. So I just want to speak on, obviously, I mean, as young people, you know, we're not sort of the pioneers of the media industry. We had people walking the path before us, you know, and we sort of following on their footsteps. I just want to touch on the role of mentorship, you know, as you sort of journey along in your career, as you journey along in your business. How much of your sort of success to be where you are today can you attribute to actually having a mentor?
You know, with me, I've been mentored throughout the industry, like since I came in. But you see, a lot of it is informal. A lot of it is like we don't talk about this. You know, we don't label it as you're my mentor. But I find that those are actually the people that I talk to like very often. People that I can call and be like, hey, dude, actually I've got this and that, and like I'm not sure where to go. You know, or what have you done before? Have you been in the situation before? That sort of thing. So I think a lot of it is just, you know, informal, but very, very important to have mentors in your life. You need like, you know, people that will, because I mean, the thing is, you know, I remember when I actually went through like some stuff and I, you know, like in work, some work dramas in like my first year, like as an intern. And I was speaking to this colleague of mine, like, I can't believe people are doing this, or this person is doing that, or whatever. And what he said to me was that, you know what, you're not going through this for the first, like, you're not the first person to go through this. That's what you need to remember. There's like other people that have been through exactly that. So it's good that you're talking about it. You're not just getting depressed alone and then maybe you're going to quit this industry or whatever. So I think, you know, having a mentor is very good because it also shows you how you're not the only person going through something, but also there's been times when, you know, maybe like I have been on like a crossroad, and I think it helped the fact that I had somebody to talk to, people to talk to, and different perspectives, but also not forgetting my own perspective. I think that helped quite a lot. So yeah, I think having a mentor, absolutely.
Great. And you, Lebza?
No, absolutely. I agree with her fully. It's always important to have somebody, obviously, that you can talk to. Obviously, someone you can learn from. Most importantly, but I think for me, when I started, geez, I mean, I love creative thinking. I love thinking out the box, and sometimes we, as young people, tend to be very, very radical. So sometimes it's also good to have somebody who can help you showcase how you can obviously then package it into a professional type of, whether it's a strategy or an idea. Because I mean, I've been in sessions where I've literally suggested we build a sculpture out of a billboard, for example, and like I see my business unit director looking at me like, "Geez, we can even do that?" For example, so always having someone there. But I think I like what Deli said. She mentioned something about being informal. Sometimes it doesn't have to be formal because you end up having multi mentors. You find yourself in situations where there's different people that you can learn from. And I think that's something that we need to also take out as the youth. Stand up, go ask somebody a question, somebody you didn't think you'd actually learn something from, go actually ask them. But I think the last thing that I want to mention is that looking at from a practical perspective, the mentors that I've had, the likes of Sadika, the likes of Julio from OMD as well, it's also about people that will help you, harness your strengths, also improve on your weaknesses. And it's something that's definitely worked so well for me in terms of what am I really good at, but also at the same time, where can I learn, where can I improve? And without that, I don't think I could where I am. So it's very, very important.
Fantastic. I mean, it's interesting you mentioned Sadika. I think she's a true legend, and I hope she doesn't mind me calling her a legend.
Actually.
But she also she refers herself to as Ma, and I mean even I've never worked with her like directly, but from a distance, from the stuff that she posts on social media, from a mentorship perspective, I learn a lot from her. Even outside of the cooking as well, I'm also learning from her. Ally Fathana, you come from Limpopo. Joburg now, you're Joburg boy, you're studying in the agency. I assume there was no one in your family that started a similar business that you're in, and here you are now, sort of ruffling some feathers in the industry. Who do you have in your corner? Do you have someone that's whispering in your ear to say, "Look, this is how it's done"?
So starting out, I was starting my journey. I think I was about 18, 19 when we started the company, and there was no one in my corner. But I think it was a thing of a young person. You just undermine the whole concept of leadership. It's knowledge, it's just access to it. You don't know how that your life. But I was lucky, fortunate enough for me, because I was working with a lot of older people that had companies that they have established. So I was helping those guys with their CR and spending. So they could see a little bit of wishing that they had started earlier. So they would offer me a piece of advice. I wouldn't leave the room, building me in one way or the other. So fast forward 10, 11 years later, then AMASA agency bought into Fresh AF company, whereby now they're coming in as an investor. So, they've been mentoring us on a business tip. So after that, then I decided to go to some Konazi, and I reached out like, "Yo, I see you doing wonders for us, on this level," because obviously he's got interest in the business. It affects him, it doesn't perform, so you will have to chip in where he can. But now I approached him on a personal level and asked him to be my mentor, and I think now we're going for a year and a half now, and it's been great, bro. I can't emphasize on the whole thing of getting a mentor amongst the youth. It's something that really need, because they think about and that's what it is. The gray hairs are important. I think you will avoid making mistakes that they've lived in, and for them to be able to respect.
Great, man. Interesting. So, so now I just want to move on to the next sort of session around this. Subtopic. So, you guys coming into the industry, I'm pretty sure you've had some expectations, in your head to say, this industry is all about fun. You're going to be engaging with celebrities. You're going to be drinking after work, especially those that work in an agency, do you think your expectations have been met, or you've been slightly disappointed? There's not enough partying that's happening in the industry now?
Geez, who wants to go first? Because I can definitely start this one. Funny enough, I actually said earlier that when you go into the industry, that you are 100% right. It was always work hard and play hard, and now it's just work hard. It's just a lot of work. There's not a lot of playing. Which is a different landscape to what the industry was a few years ago. And I think, it has been a challenge. And I always say, that meme, how it started and how it's going. I think that we need to obviously talk about as the youth. I think when I came into the industry, obviously you go to school, or you have certain expectations. What I realized is that where you end up being placed within the media industry is very, very far from where you think you would have been placed or where you'd love to be placed. And I quickly picked it up with certain peers who had maybe studied finance or law, where even though they'll start off as an intern or as a junior, there is still a career path, which was planned in terms of where they would go. Whereas with us, we tend to find ourselves in spaces where you did not know you'd find yourself in. So even, for example, for myself, after studying, I genuinely did not think I'd end up at a media agency. I'd known a lot about your publics, the creative side of it, and so forth. I ended up at OMD, and I think there is that from an expectations perspective, and it's important for us as the youth to manage our expectations at an early stage, to make sure that you know exactly where you are. This is the reality, and how do you actually get yourself to where you want to be?
Yeah. Deliwe?
Well, with me, when I joined, the media industry, I remember I was at MediaMark, and every Friday, actually this was spoken to, it was communicated to us. Sorry guys, it was communicated to us when I joined, like on the first day. I remember the HR lady said to us, guys, you're going to have Friday drinks, and I'm just going to advise you to not get too drunk, because it was like unlimited. So I was like, okay, well, wow. And then when I started chilling and hanging around there, a lot of other older people would say, oh, this is nothing, we used to have this. And like they talk about, if you think this is a lot, imagine 10 times more, imagine this, imagine that. And I was like, so I think that's the thing, now if somebody's coming into the industry and they're like, oh, this is so fun, we get to do online thingies with media owners, I'd be like, girl, we used to do this, we used to do that. And somebody else has said that to me, So I think the industry is getting less and less fun. That's something that Lebo touched on. And like the oldies will always say, oh, we used to do this, there was that.
We're listening, don't say too much.
No, oldies.
Sorry. It is what it is. But you know what I mean? Like, and people say different things, and you're like, oh, I wish I was there then. Sounds like that was fun, But I think, as you said, how it started, how it's going, and how I guess it's going to be tomorrow, three different things. And it's just, I guess, for us to just try and manage the very, very, very young people. I'm talking people that are like a year in, 2 years in, to say, guys, what, it's okay. Whatever you have now, think about it as the best thing. But we should try and keep it more fun, man,
Yeah, Ali, you actually on the different you're on a different path altogether, and also you have the opportunity to create experience for other young people. How has it been? How it started versus how it's going now?
So back then, like we would a lot of our content would come from events, right? So that means like P access to your most parties where just get a wrist tag, VIP section, and it just feed you alcohol just to bribe you so that you can write it, like for them, and I think I've been fortunate enough to live that life and experience all of that, all the parties. So as you, we are youth-owned brand, youth as well, and our people that are targeted. So you sort of like get trapped in lifestyle as well to be able to, to level up when it comes to the content so that it resonates with the people. You have to be out there for you to be relevant. But from a corporate side, that be hindering the business. So what we then realized is that that is not the way to go about it. And fortunately, like we partnered with Avatar. Their whole model is different. Their company culture is way different from other creative agencies, whereby all in is like love, like just appreciating that. So they don't believe in creating like an environment where we have parties out of our office. So in just different kinds, like 2 weeks ago we were playing like was Family Feud on Teams, which was like there are ways of exciting the employees or the young people that are coming on. I think actually happens when you're hiring the so I think because now the trending topic now is like being healthy in terms of mental health is important. So would feel that like you just try for them to get about the they working and them being overworked, like those type of things. So we were very with that. It was a deliberate for us certain activities was to focus more on the person.
Yeah.
So it's definitely not what you think from outside when you look.
Yeah, cool, man.
Sorry.
So March 2020, happens, COVID-19, lockdown. We find ourselves working in ways that we never used to or we've never worked in before. We see lots of businesses shutting down, particularly on the media front. How has that impacted you in your own spaces as media practitioners, as young people in the media? And more so, the reason why I'm raising this question is that, as a young person within an organization that's been around for many years, you often get told that this is how we used to do things. And I'm pretty sure some of you would be like, I've been telling you that you must go digital, or intensify our digital strategy. So how has COVID-19 impacted you in how you do your work and how you relate to other people?
Yeah, you know what, I'll say this, and I'll be one of the first people to admit, I've been saying that we should be working from home. Honestly, guys, there's not always a need to come to the office. Not that there is a need, but not always, you see. So I think COVID-19 shook us up a bit. Yes, there were a lot of negatives, and I just, for mental health and all of that, but also companies closing down, people literally losing their jobs. So it was affecting people a lot. But I know that, we have learned through COVID to be able to meet like this. This is now possible. The fact that my car broke down or whatever the case is, it shouldn't be a problem anymore, And I think, we have learned that we can play games, we can play 30 seconds or whatever games on Teams. We can, be those people. We don't have to be these blocked people all the time. But I think it has taught us so much. It's really forced us to be in the present, to not be those people that just have to meet for something to happen, like physically, you know what I mean? So I think it's helped quite a lot. We don't give it enough credit. But yeah, I'm out here giving it credit. So yeah, apart from the fact that there's that.
Interesting. Ali, I mean, you now don't have to carry your camera to an event for Zikipani. Your staff is now at home. You can't do much. How has it impacted your business?
So the minute when that happened, I was just thinking about like 2-3 years back when we had our print publication. I was like, thank God we printing, because we'd be seeing flames on flames, you know. So luckily, because we're a digital magazine, that we're able to flourish like during the pandemic. So what we did was, so brands, the ABI, they couldn't sell the alcohol product, they couldn't push product. What we then did is with a whole new approach. Instead of creating for our platforms, we decided to partner with Draftline in selling them content. Doing a whole campaigns on different brands content for people to watch and consume at home, but with the product still top of mind. You know, we're able to do that a lot. At least we were able to sub. But with working, you know, like it took us a while, but we got to a point where, you know, like hosting meetings, teams, all of that, that's very, very useful. And, you know, like just having channels on Teams, like it worked wonders for us, you know, like where, you know, when it started, you know, this thing won't work. But now I think we're used to it. Look at us now, having a whole conference, a whole webinar on our platform.
Interesting. Lebza, you even started a new job in the middle of a pandemic. Who does that?
I know, right? What to say?
How has it impacted you?
No, man, you're right. I mean, when COVID happened, I was still in the banking side. So to your point, as obviously it was at peak, I was transitioning from banking to consumer goods. And that was the most interesting transition ever, because obviously from a banking perspective, I was coming from a space that was very digitized, that, you know, that was pushing the boundaries from a digitization perspective. Now going into consumer goods, you know, which is it's a practical, you know, a category. So I think it helped me realize, you know, how, especially, you know, being on the client side is just understanding how it changed the way we communicate, actually how we want to communicate. So instead of communicating, you know, from whether we're pushing numbers or volume perspective, but it also became very important for us to also start showcasing value, for example. So how do we now push our products to show more value to the people that we are servicing and so forth? So it was actually such a very interesting space to move into more of a consumer goods side, which then obviously led me into more e-commerce, for example. People are you know, being less mobile, going to shops less. So how do we then drive more online purchases and so forth? So that became interesting. But from a practical perspective, I think Deli and Ally have actually hit the nail in the coffin for me, because I think we need to understand the youth a lot more in terms of how the youth work. I can't say never, but I didn't like going to the office, and not because I didn't want to go to the office, but I've picked up that as the youth, we love environment, and an environment actually drives the amount of work that we take out, or our mood, or our creativity and so forth. So ever since lockdown, I've actually found myself, you know, obviously with COVID regulations and so forth, but finding yourself working in shared office spaces, such as the one at Santon. I just forgot the name, but like WeWork, I think that one is somewhere else. But yeah, I just forgot the name. But yeah, finding those type of spaces. Finding spaces, yes. Finding other creatives that you can, you know, bump ideas around or talk about the industry, where it's going. So it's given us that opportunity. And I think, you know, when you go back to the workspace, we were confined in believing that we need to be here 9 to 5. This is it. And we didn't realize what it was doing to our creativity, because youth is all about creativity. We think out the box, and you can't think out the box in a cubicle, guys. Let's be honest. So that's honestly how I saw it from and obviously it's about understanding environments and so forth. But I've actually flourished in enjoying working in different spaces, but also understanding the impact of COVID and helping communicate better value for people that are being impacted by the COVID itself. So it has so many facets to it that has changed the way we think.
Yeah, so it's interesting you're saying, you're talking about this all work from home type of situation or working from anywhere really. Actually, 2 weeks ago, I heard in the news that Apple and Google were actually asking their people to go back to their offices or start working from their offices, and they'll only be entitled, I think, about a week in a year to work from home. So, what is your response to that, Lebza? Because if you think about it, even this work from home, work from remote working situation started in the US, it became a thing, then obviously it comes back to us as developing countries. What do you think about this phenomenon that, if Tim Cook says, come back to offices, that means also Mike Brown at NetBank is going to say
let's all go.
No, what do you have to say about that?
Funny enough, I think you've answered it, in the sense that we are a developing country and we need to ask ourselves if it's practical. I think practically speaking, I've experienced people that have been forced to go back to the office who actually then did actually contract the virus itself. So I think because we're a developing country, I don't think we can move in the same pace as other countries, number one. Number two, interestingly, to your point about Apple and Google, those type of companies' environment is, for me personally, is a very creative space. And obviously, if they follow regulations and so forth, if we're coming back to an environment that will drive our work, levels and so forth, and actually drives our creativity, then I don't see why not. But I think we need to establish as businesses if has been working from home being more beneficial to our employees or not. And I think that's the question that we need to ask ourselves. So as you, Pat, as Lerato agency, if you feel like your people haven't been working from home, and I think obviously then you'd have to look at going back into the office. But if not, and it has been conducive, then I don't see why we should. So ultimately, it goes back to analyzing your business, but also analyzing the fact that we are a developing country. How does it impact us when we then obviously incorporate first world trends as well?
You are a business owner. Comes on seat or fine. As long as you can deliver, you can work wherever.
Yeah, I agree with Lebo there. I don't think it's a model that you can approach it as a one size fits all. I think it's a matter of looking at how you've performed in the past few months and see if you would be able to get rid of or downside. I think it's all dependent on your work output and your performance, your team performance. But I don't think it's wise to call that out now, because we've never really had a fully open country. Like we've only ever been on level that's a little bit without restrictions and what would happen. I've been in meetings with a lot of people where someone is like, sorry guys, I've been on mute the whole time. People are shopping, people are doing all these kinds of stuff like with office hours time. But I can't generalize. Those are people that are maybe that don't respect their work environments, I guess. So that's why I'm saying that it's not a one size fits all. Even in the company, within the company, if it's a company of 100 people, maybe the 15 that are able to work at the office, let them work at the office. They prefer working from the office, because some people kids and have all the distractions. Some of them have PlayStation and during working hours.
Yeah, interesting. For me personally, Also, I'd like to find out if someone out there, with the resources, can do a research on the amount of time that gets wasted um, before the start of every virtual meeting. You on mute, oh, I can't put on my camera, and then I just wish someone could quantify, because I mean, in the meetings that I've had virtually, on average, a good 5 minutes goes by.
Like me,
Say again.
like me today.
Exactly. So it would be interesting to see, as you've got Lebza back, to see how many minutes or hours gets wasted with this whole you're on mute, or can you see my slides? Can you see my presentation? You know? So Deliwe, actually, there's a question here about from Facebook from Zamatang around this work from home situation in terms of striking a balance or creating boundaries. Keeping your mental health in check and just keeping boundaries in general. What's your take on that question?
So I think, I mean, we've already spoken a little bit about it. Lebo and Ali mentioned just now. It's not a one-size-fits-all situation. I think, I mean, where I work currently at Mediology, our CEO had like one-on-ones with all of us. And I think one of the things she spoke about to everybody was, what do you feel, how do you feel about going back to the office? And this is before, like before this period now, when everybody was still, a lot more companies were starting to go back to the office and all of that. She wanted to hear how everybody's feeling, And I think a lot of us were keen on going back, but also keen on working from home. But I think it's a balance for each person. So each person will know that. For me, Ellie said it perfectly, that it's not even in a company of 100 people, there's going to be people that will say, for me, working from home is like the best thing. It's the best thing ever. And somebody else will say, I need to go to the office. I need to see people. I need to see faces, bounce off ideas, that sort of thing. And then for somebody else, it's like a bit of both, If we can go maybe on a Monday and a Wednesday, I think that's enough, because then I can see people. I'm okay, because a lot of people, because I mean, we're young people, some of us live alone in an apartment, imagine a person like that, and yet now they have to work from home and they can't go anywhere. I think it's difficult for that person. So for that type of person, I mean, one of my sisters is actually like that. She used to say to me that she literally can't wait to, for at around this time, then she goes to play golf on her own, and then she comes back, or to practice, and then she comes back, because the thing is, she's alone. She literally lives on her own, and she's not about to go back to her mom's house just because of this, pandemic. So I think different people, different situations. And, there was a meme with like a very beautiful house on the one hand, and you could see inside, like double-story house, big space, all of that, and versus like a whole lot of shacks on the right. And somebody said, oh, stay at home. I think the tag was stay at home, work from home, all of that stuff. And they don't understand that this is where you live versus this is where they live. They can do that comfortably. You can't. You have like 40 siblings that are screaming. You know what I mean? Like, you can't really do that. A neighbor speaking, you can hear. So it's not easy for you. So I think everybody is different. It is definitely, as Ali said, not a one size fits all. So I think everybody should just do what makes them happy, and communicate it to your company wherever you work. If you're able to, work from home versus in the office, communicate that and say, for me, definitely coming back would help my mental health, and maybe pick up the phone and speak to somebody.
Yeah. So now I just want to move on to sort of the next item, which links to this whole working from home or remote working, So there's a question from Memoria on Facebook in terms of.
I don't know if it's my line, but it's super leggy. Are you into the same thing?
Say it again. Hello, Ali. What does Ali say? So, yeah. So what I want to say. So Memoria is asking, like, obviously during this time with remote working, and also I'll speak for my, as a. We can hear you, Ali.
Yeah, Ali's hanging.
Ali, I suspect it's in Limpopo. That network, it can't be here in
Ouch.
um, so I find it like, I mean, as a small agency owner, as with any business, really you thrive through relationships, and building networks. Even now, in terms of how people get jobs, it's not what you know really. It's about who you know. So how can um, the industry create also opportunities for young people to build those networks, to network with other industry people, and also to bounce off ideas during this time?
Well, I mean, like similar to how Lebo and I got into the industry, there's the AMASA, but I'll say this: it's not enough to just have the AMASA as the only body that connects the industry. You know what I mean? Because I think also a lot of people don't even know about this industry. A lot of young people out there don't know about the industry. So you're looking at a situation where the industry doesn't have enough skilled people, enough young people, enough people coming in. They have some pretty good people. We have like some amazing, I mean, look at the people on the screen, right? But we need more to come in, you know what I mean? So for us to get that, we need people to make the decision when they're in high school, when they're in varsity, to say, I want to be a media planner, I want to be a strategist. And yet they don't know that. They don't know about this option, So I'm actually one of the people that have that communicate similar to Sadika, communicate on my channel, on my social media platforms, my YouTube channel, my Facebook, Instagram, wherever, and I talk about this industry because I feel like there is a young person out there that has no idea what this industry is all about. What is this industry? But yet, if they would know, then they'd see, would say, okay, wow, I fit in there. Similar to when you know that you are here. So, and you like to have debates at home during like dinner, and you're like, you know what, I actually want to be a lawyer. As much as you know that, why don't you just also think about, I'm like this, I have this personality, I'm a people's person, relationships are my thing. So I want to be a media strategist, I want to be this. So I think we need to educate more people in the high school level before we can even get to a point where we're hiring. You know what I mean? I think also companies need to open their doors to train those people, the whole fresh from varsity, fresh from high school thing. We need to be able to train those people and, put in enough time to do that. Because I know that, COVID-19 also has affected how young people how interns get trained. Data is a problem as well. You know what I mean? Like, there's just a lot of things that are within this whole thing of working from home and not being able to train and intern properly. But I think we need to find ways to work around that. And not use that as an excuse. You know what I mean? So, yeah, that's just my take.
Interesting. I mean, Ali, I was asking a question whilst you were offline, or rather your Limpopo network was acting up. I mean, as entrepreneurs, business sort of thrives through relationships and nurturing those relationships. But now, due to COVID, you can't freely sort of meet with someone for coffee or invite them over to your offices. How do you do it? Rather, let me ask you directly, like, how do you maintain relationships, also encourage sort of, even within your team, in terms of sharing ideas and bouncing off ideas with other people as well?
Can you guys hear me?
We can hear you.
Okay, cool. My audio is cool now. So are you asking me if we able to take people to sumo, to nightclubs and all of that? Is that what you're asking?
Taking them.
Is that what you're asking? I'm gonna hit you up, bro. When I hit you up. So, I think now, with these times, right, the COVID times, sort of like prove that your relationships or whoever's giving you business, they're giving it to you via merit and to show that you're actually doing the work, like simply because you're not greasing them. If you were greasing them, you're not greasing them as you were before, or brown envelopes, because the physical contact like means that there needs to be a meeting and all of that. So I'm glad that this is happening now, so that to see the people that are actually putting in the work are the people that are continuing like with this business thing, and they're able to still get business. They're still able to maintain the relationships without actually like going face to face with these people, with their clients. You know, I don't know if that makes sense and if that answers your question. I think, you know, like it forces us to be more creative, and to add more value to our clients more than anything else, you know.
Okay.
Yeah.
Cool. I mean, interesting perspective to say that you can now grease. I didn't know if actually it was a what do you call it, a standard business practice that you grease people. Yeah. So I just wanna talk a bit about. So us. I assume everyone here is a millennial. You know what they say about millennials. We are a microwave generation. Today we're an intern. By lunchtime, we want to be a manager. By dinner, we want to be a director. The following day, CEO. So, what is it that the previous sort of generation or most of our leaders in the industry do not understand about us, the millennials?
I can go first. Can I go first?
Sure.
So it's a curveball, but like I think I'm gonna attempt, try my best. So Pat, I think right now, the generation, as you've mentioned, like the millennials, like we've got the best of both worlds. Like we're exposed to the Gen Z, what the Gen Zs are exposed to. We're exposed to the generation before us, what they were exposed to. So the traditional media and the new TikTok market that's coming up. So, and we've been exposed to a lot of information, and that made us hybrid in what we do. One can say that I've studied this at school, but now they're able to, work under a different industry as a whole, And if you look at Lebo, he's doing a lot of stuff around media, and his title integration, that means that it's a multiple things that he's in charge of, like we are pluralists, So I work with Stadio, School of Fashion, so it's a bunch of young people that are creative. So you find a group of them, like maybe in a group of 10, one of them is a stylist, one of them is a makeup artist, one of them is a photographer, videographer. Amongst all of them, they can come up with a hot campaign and a hot, a hot campaign basically. And all of them are studying one course, which is just fashion, but they're able to execute things that they just exposed to over the internet, because YouTube is something that we're all learning from these days, as opposed to, asking someone to teach us something. We basically look at YouTube, and, we fast track on our skills. Yeah.
Interesting you say that. Lebza, do you want to be CEO by dinner tonight?
Funny enough, you say that. It goes back to that COVID thing, where if you asked me at March 2020, I probably would have said yes. But ever since COVID happened, I think we've all established what is most important to us. And I think it goes back to a conversation that Pat and I once had about, progression and always how we look at vertical growth. And not realizing that growth can come from any type of move, as long as it's in a space where you want to grow, whether it's horizontal. Sometimes you actually have to go back. There's growth in that as well. So as the youth, I think that's point number one, that we need to change our thinking about, climbing the corporate ladder, becoming a CEO tomorrow, like you said. Sometimes that is not your path, and we need to understand what is your path, number one. Number two, to go back to your point about industry not understanding the youth, I think for me, it's about acknowledging what they don't understand. I always make an analogy using the NBA, basketball. So for the people that don't watch basketball, basketball has a system called draft system where, to Daily's point, it's very connected to colleges, schools, and so forth. So once a year, each team then goes and actually picks one student from college to come play for their team. But the most interesting thing about how it works with the NBA is that they then center the team around the young star, because although there'll be a lot for us to impart to the young star from an experience perspective, in terms of the thinking and the freshness, we cannot outshine that. So they actually center the team around that. And if you actually look historically, that's worked for famous teams like Chicago Bulls with Michael Jordan, what he did in his first rookie season, as they call it. So I think for me, it's about us, especially because ironically, youth is getting so younger that we on the call are actually like mid-youth now. You look at the already start working at a young age. They already take geniuses at like 12, 13 years of age. So how do we then actually become the forefront for those type of people? It's to understand what we don't understand and acknowledge the fact. I actually had a former boss that used to say, if I know it, then something's wrong. And he'd always say, whatever you know that I don't know is exactly what we need to do. So I think we need to establish the fact that it's about understanding that, and for us and the people obviously ahead of us to take those risks and let the young people lead. We will help experience-wise, but idea-wise and direction-wise, let the young people take the lead, because there's nothing that can replace young mind and so forth. So I think that's an analogy that I always use, and I wish we can showcase a lot more when it comes to the industry, instead of how our interns are currently treated. You find interns that have no progression plans, literally, have no idea of the environment that they're in, to what Daly has mentioned. So I think it for me, it starts with acknowledging what they don't understand, and then working our way into understanding and bringing the youth more into our plans.
Let young people lead. Deliwe, what you got to say?
So I actually was thinking just now about one of my friends. She's my Instagram friend, I guess. We follow each other. We like each other's things. So I imagine we're friends. So she posted something about if I was to look at my age before I did anything, I would not have done half the things that I've done now. Because, a lot of the times you'll be told, oh my gosh, you're so young, like you're already doing this. I mean, Ali, I'm sure you get this a lot. Running your own company at such a young age, oh my gosh, wow. You know what I mean? I think a lot of people, a lot of older generations want to scare you into, oh my gosh, don't fall. You're still young. There's still time. You can still do whatever you want to do. I mean, you know what I mean? And I think young people today are not even looking at their age. It's like, dude, I'm 13. I'm a TikTok star. I'm a YouTube star. I'm making so much money. Like, it's okay. You know what I mean? Like, it's you don't have to be following a certain path, and you don't have to have these timelines to say, oh, by 25 this, and then by 30 that. So I think, yes, there's just like so many different ways to grow and find your own way, as Lebo was saying just now. Just find your own way and stretch yourself as far as you can grow. If you are making mistakes, it's okay, make the mistakes, but just know that your age shouldn't determine what you can and cannot do. The fact that you're the youngest person here doesn't mean that you can lead the people around here, as you're saying. So I think, more and more young people are thinking like that. If you can think, you can lead, you can, you can run something. You can definitely show people, this is what I think should happen. And we also need to trust ourselves. And also what you were saying, Lebu, to a point when you said more young people we should lead the younger people, because as you said, we're literally like right there somewhere in the middle. Somebody's looking at us like, oh, but they're so old. But like, we should help the younger people. I always say to the intern at the office, I'm one of the people that will say, what do you think? She'll ask me, so this and this and that. I'd be like, but what do you think? Because the minute you start telling them what to do and how to think, they stop thinking for themselves and start thinking like you would. What would Deliwe do? And you don't want that. I mean, you want them to think for themselves and to have that way we are utilizing these bright minds, these fresh minds that are coming in. So I think, I mean, let the young people lead, as you said, Lebo. Really, like, let's just lead and let's forget about the age. It's just a number. Literally, do what you want to do anyways.
Yes.
So Pat, before you came on, I wanted to steal 2 seconds and ask the fellow guests here a question around the topic that you did. Yeah.
Oh.
So Deli and Lebo, as you've said, Lebo and Deli, around, you know, like people that are above you, like, and how they see young people, like, especially in workplaces, doing what you guys do and knowing that the young platform or the youth platforms or the platforms where youth go to, basically, and you guys being in charge of maybe budgets that go to those platforms. How do you then convince, you know, like the people above you or the older generation that they should spend money on, you know, like an influencer, you know, as opposed to like a Times Life? How do you go about it? How do they make you? Do you still maintain your independence in your approach? How do you guys go about it? Can an Uncle Vinny come to you guys and say, this is why you should spend 500K on me and not Times Life? How do you guys convince someone sitting at the top that they should spend a budget?
Yeah, I think, you know, what I've learned within this industry is not necessarily what you say, but how you say it. So you have to learn how to communicate to, I mean, at the end of the day, we learn people, we learn each other. I think by now, we met yesterday, the four of us, and I think we've gotten to know each other a little bit, and you kind of know how to, or you think about it, or subconsciously it's there. How am I going to communicate with this person? I think at work, it's the same thing. You know your clients, you get to know this person. Is she a mom? Is she, what is this person? And how can I communicate best to convince them? So it's your job to convince the next person. How you deliver what you're going to say is probably the most important, more important than what you're going to say. Now, it's your responsibility to say the right thing because if you're that good, you're probably going to convince them to do it. So you just have to really make sure that you put in the work, thinking behind, the thinking behind it, but also make sure that you speak it properly and just deliver it in such a way that will be convincing to the next person.
Great. Yeah.
No, spot on, man. And I was about to say, I think looking at my past, I mean, I've been in a situation, but looking at my career, I've been at an agency, I've been at an in-house agency, and I've been on client side, fully servicing an agency. And I think looking at those three views, which is so different, I've always maintained the understanding of creating value for a consumer. And what I'm trying to say is going up that ladder has actually helped me, because now that I'm within a client, I understand what it means from a business objective perspective and so forth. And you start realizing how utilizing someone as like fresh AF, I almost said it out loud, but they're kids, is not necessarily putting Ali on. It's about the fact that I understand as a business that there is value within the consumer that Ali targets. And I think that's the message that we need to bring across more as the youth. I think we sometimes find ourselves where we're speaking about YFM. It's cool, you should be on YFM, but we need to understand their language as well and understand that for them it'll go back to business imperatives. Does it make sense for the business? One of the campaigns that I previously worked on was for a bank that's obviously within jazz, and for a long time they actually always utilized Kaya for unplugged sessions. And for the first time in 10 years, I actually showcased the growth of jazz within the youth. You look at artists like Zoe Mudiga, so you realize that they didn't realize that jazz is still, very important to the youth. The music that, people like Costa do, it's actually sampled from jazz instruments or jazz elements. So that actually, giving them that insight showcased the importance of being on a platform like YFM, where we then did a live and rewired session with Zoe. So it's showcasing that. And I think for me, personally speaking, from this meeting, everyone on this call, having known Deli, but connecting with people like Ali and understanding his audience is something that I'm so interested in, so that I can then showcase value to the people that I work with, my stakeholders, so that we can then obviously benefit as a business.
Fantastic. I think you both answered the question quite brilliantly, even though I didn't ask it, but I get the gist of. No, I mean.
And he's going for your job, bro.
Hey,
But all in all, so as we wrap up the session, really, I just want to understand or get to know what are your hopes for this industry. What do you hope for? That industry either change or maintain or grow for next and future generations.
I think
Deliwe, you're quite passionate about young people and bringing them up. So, what do you hope they'll find the industry? In what stage do you hope that they will find this industry in?
So I'm hoping that they will find this industry at a point where we're not saying things like, oh, it used to be so fun. I hope that they'll find it when it's actually more fun. They'll be like, oh my gosh, you guys, this is like, it's better than it was 10 years ago. And I'm hoping for that. I know that it's a reach, but I am hoping for it in whatever way possible. I hope we can do that. I hope we can attract people that will come into the industry and make it well known. And I think we ourselves need to start that right now. Just being influencers of the industry, going on social media and being cool about it and being like, hey, listen, there's this. And it's funny, we are working in the media industry and yet it's not on the media enough. I mean, we should go to like YFM and just have conversations about this industry. I mean, there's a lot of unemployment out there. I'm hoping that young people can come in, and make this industry cooler than it is, I think we need, the future of this industry looks, in my eyes, very colorful, very fun, very out of the box. Like literally to a point where we don't have cubicles, we're just taking them out and finding different ways to just be creative. I think the future of this industry is a future where, I mean, my media agency right now, where I work at Mediology, we're currently trying to practice the thing where you are a media agency, but you're also creative, you're also digital, you're also, you know what I mean? And not just being, oh, I'm a planner and that's that. There's somebody else that does the creative thinking, somebody else that does something else. Like Lebo was saying that, he came in as a creative. And I think that's the thing. We attract creatives out there. We shouldn't get them to come here only to work with numbers, So I think the future looks so bright and so colorful and so unboxed that we don't have these many fragmentations. I think that's what we need. We need to open ourselves more, to learn more skills, never stop learning, never stop giving young people the voice to talk, never stop listening to what everybody else has to say. So that way, I think our industry is going to go to the moon, to the stars.
Leza, do you see this industry in the future as boxless? People just doing what they do best without boundaries?
Look, it depends on us right now. Honestly, to Deli's point, and Ali also alluded to it about being hybrids, doing so much more than you expected to do. But ultimately, I think the biggest thing that I hope for our industry in the next few years, number one, is for it to be stable. I think there's a lot of uncertainty at the moment. Obviously, to the point, a lot of media owners have closed. A lot of agencies, are going through tough times, losing clients and so forth. So number one is about stability. And I think stability comes from what we've discussed here about, utilizing the resources that we have, especially from a youth perspective. Look, it's all about, digitizing. We understand digital. It's about time that we utilize what we know more into business objectives and helping agencies actually with their business imperatives, which is something historically we were always away from as juniors, as interns. But you actually realize that you actually play a big impact in winning clients, maintaining clients, and so forth. So just that's my number one. Number two, I think it's something that Deli mentioned about high schools and varsities. It's so crazy how I don't think we realize the how can I say it, the strength or the potential that our industry have. There's so many young people that want to get into media, entertainment, and so forth. But the only problem is they actually don't know much about it, and that is literally the only thing. So we are sitting on a gold mine of a industry where right now what people know as media is going into obviously being a radio presenter or being an actor and so forth. How do we showcase the other side of it as an education drive to show them that there is another side of media, which is where the space that we are in? Because once you create that, guys, you create demand, and you create more young people, and the more young people come in, the more they will lead, and young people will lead more young people and so forth. So it's just about us in utilizing the strength that this media industry has. It's like a sleeping giant for me. It can do so much more for South Africa as a whole than it's already doing right now. Finding agencies in Limpopo, for example, KZN. I want to see, young agencies being formed, and we have to celebrate the ones that are being formed, like Duma Collective that just won multi-choice. Guys, I went to high school with Sibuma Bena, and she's 1 year older than me. Seeing that is amazing. So we need a lot more of that. We need Lerato Agency to win big clients, to take risks and find situations where people like Pat are leading us, for example. So that's definitely what I wish for the industry.
And in your words, let the young people lead.
100%.
Ally Fathana, what you got to say?
I think from a media owner perspective, so I think, as we all know, digital is the future, and I think a lot of emerging platforms are more on a digital space. So I would like to see more of an understanding from the buyers, the media buyers and strategists, where there's an understanding with media owners, and not from a traditional your Times Live, your newsroom kind of approach. A lot of people that are starting out now, journalism is redefined now. So it's no longer journalism as we know it. So there's a lot of content creators, and these people that are now creating content are people that have never ever set foot in a newsroom. Hence now you see people like Bonang suing people 500K simply because they don't know the etiquette or the the laws of journalism or the policies that are, you get a lot of people that are in trouble simply because they've got a lot of audience, but because they don't know how to practice journalism, they get into trouble with that. So, but at the same time, for them to be able to make money, they rely on agencies, but some of them don't even know about media agencies. And I think that's where the problem is. And some of the people that are within the media space, from a buyer side, they got into media buying simply because they were in advertising and not necessarily, they didn't know anything about the media plan or media buying space. They went into it as a creative, So I don't think there's a lot of noise around media from that perspective. There's a lot of noise around media from an entertainment and content creation, but never the back end side of things where you control budgets of those media platforms. I guess you just want to be cool as a young person that is creating content, but just understanding the business side. So I would like to see that gap bridged, so that for people to be able to have access to Lebo, access to Deli, snap of a finger type of thing. There's a lot of young people that don't know the processes of making money basically. They create a platform, they create nice content for people to consume, and they just chill and wait for agencies to approach them once they reach a certain number of audience, which is wrong. They can actually start from scratch. So, I mean, for someone sitting there as a media planner, for them to convince them to jump on, a content creators platform to amplify their content and amplify their campaigns, they need some sort of a big convincing, whereas this whole thing could have been avoided if an influencer actually builds a deck and they pitch themselves to a media planner, just to show them what it is that they can do on their platforms. So I would like to see that gap bridged. I think that would make me happy, whereby influencers are getting what is rightfully theirs in terms of budgets, because sometimes they get approached with 5K budget for a big campaign, whereby, you know, like they came as an afterthought, you know, like I would like to see influencers actually making a lot of killing from, just them knowing their worth, basically. And I think with the help of media agencies, I think that can be achieved.
Actually, I'm tempted to ask one last question, you know, because I think what Deliwe, all three of you have sort of spoke about is around the issue of just awareness around media on the other side and all of that. Education, you know, in its formal sense, you know, should we be sending people to universities to go study marketing? Because in my, I mean, also, if it wasn't for my mentors, I wouldn't have been exposed to this side of media or understanding what Lebo, Deliwe, they're doing, you know. Is there still a place for a media classroom to teach people about this thing, about this sleeping giant?
I think that's the only way people are going to know about it. You know, that's one of the only ways. I mean, let's take away the classroom. You know, let's take away the university. Let's take away the college. Let's find ways, other ways, and not to say let's take it away. Actually, that's the wrong choice of word. But let's not just think about that as a means to getting an education in order to practice media or to learn about media. Let's find other ways to teach people about media, to teach the young people about this industry. I think, you know, at the end of the day, when you have a degree or a diploma, you are more employable, you know, as opposed to somebody that doesn't. I think a lot of companies, I remember my first agency job was at RMS Media, and one of the things that Rob Smart said to me was that, you know, I when I was looking for you.
No, Rob is a legend, that one. Legend.
Yeah, like he said to me, I was looking for somebody that can, you know, learn, somebody that has the ability of learning. The only way they know you can learn, the only way employers know you can learn, is if you have something to show for it, to say, hey, I did learn this and here we are. You know what I mean? So I think because some people in this industry have degrees from somewhere else, like literally like a whole different, they learned nothing about media in the degree, but the fact that they have a degree helps them, or the fact that they have a diploma helps them. I think we need to learn, we need to teach people, teach young people how to get into this industry in different ways. We don't need 3-year degrees anymore. We shouldn't need 3-year degrees anymore. We should need people that have shown interest and people that want to learn more, but in other ways as well. You know what I mean? And I think it's up to us. We need to find those ways. I'm glad we've got the GPALP, which is, for me, it was like the best thing ever, because I was there for 6 months and I learned much more than, you know, I could have ever learned in a university institution. Honestly, I don't think there's a university out there that teaches as much as GPALP, just that, you know, that 6-month period course does. Like, it's insane how there's so much gap, you know what I mean? So we need to bridge that gap in many different ways. We need to find other ways to just, you know, close the gaps, advertise more, you know, like, literally, we are in the advertising industry. Like as I said earlier, how ironic is it that the media industry isn't in the media? You know, I mean, you know what I mean? Like on YFM, let's talk about it. Let's, you know, educate the young people. And that could also help, Ali, as you were saying, young people that are influencers could also help them to say, hey, I'm a media owner, actually. I'm just like Media Mark. I'm just like SABC. I could make money doing this. You know, I've got my 500 people that follow me and I'm very happy, and it can grow and I'm engaging. People love talking to me. They love seeing they are literally like glued onto their screens waiting for me to post another video or whatever. You know what I mean? I think more young people learn a lot more, not just to come into the industry, but just to learn to help themselves as well. Yeah, man.
Interesting, so, yeah. And it's a great point. Lebza, as we close, do you think we should send people to school?
I mean, it's ironic, Pat, because I know
Kila kaleo or kila kaleo, and you have nothing to say. Like kila kaleo.
you know. No, it's funny because I know when you love school, dude. How long have you been? You have been just going up. I know you, dude. So, for me, yeah, no, I think Deli's right. Ali also alluded to it about, you know, people are learning on YouTube, and I think it's beyond our industry as well. People are learning how to be anything on YouTube, really, or any other social platforms. But it's 100% right in the sense that, obviously, I think, yeah, school is a foundation, and I think it depends again on the type of person that you are. I mean, look at Casper. He's one of the best marketers, and you know, he doesn't have a degree, for example. So I think it depends on a person. For me, school was really good for me because my thinking was just like, yo, I went to an art school, so I just used to love to draw. It was just too on the creative side, and school kind of helped me bring it back. And obviously you have models like business management, and you realize so much more. But ultimately, to what Deli has said, she's spot on in the sense that yes, we can have school, but we need to go over and above that. How do we have platforms like this where we actually communicate? Like, I mean, what Ali has said, that question Ali asked us was, it was very, very relevant, especially to him, understanding where we stand when we were in boardrooms and so forth. So it's just about how you utilize school formally, but also utilize platforms like this, social media, informal education, and merge the two to create yourself a good career.
Ma Alice, nasuivala.
No, I think I'm covered, bro. I think I'm covered. I think, you know, like, I think the first thing, what I'm realizing now is that although we've been saying on the conversation that I come from a different world from Deli and Lebo. So I don't think they have described on the daily, day-to-day sort of like grind. What do they do when they get to the office type of thing? And I think maybe a lot of people are watching here, that might be something that they missed out on. So I know we come from a content side where we create content, but they come from a buyer side where they buy ad spaces and they basically run campaigns on the platforms. So a lot of people are, you know, like that own platforms. I think it would be dope if they just know what it is exactly that they.
Don't worry, I'm also looking together where we unpack that.
Yeah. No, they can reach them out on social media, you know, they'll chat. Because I think it's a different conversation, you know?
Yeah, thank you. I think there wouldn't have been a better way of wrapping up Youth Month. You guys are brilliant minds. I personally learned a lot from this forum, and hopefully many other people that are watching. And yeah, let's keep the fire burning. The message to the golden oldies is say, let the young people lead.
Exactly. Let the young people lead.
Cheers, everyone. Have a great evening, friends.
Awesome. Thank you, guys. Thanks, everyone.
Thank you. Cheers, Deli.
Cheers, guys.